And in this second part, we have prepared two short presentations for you, which are by no means extensive or what we want to say, but kind of giving you some indications of ideas that we have in mind relating to how we would like to approach our creative work in this workshop in Sahna. So my colleague Alexandros is going to speak later on about some works of his that relate to these ideas. And I will start with uh, a short introduction to a form of art that I think to an extent has inspired some of the things we are doing here. But please do not take this as a proper and extensive presentation, because this is a whole field of art that we're talking about, and that would be impossible for me to present this in less than half an hour. I want to speak to you a little bit about land art, environmental art, and generally forms of art that use the environment as a medium and or refer to the environment as such. And this whole story begins sometime back in 1969. Although you would say that people have been making art about landscape or representing landscapes and the environment since the antiquity, of course. But this was using the environment in a symbolic manner. But the point where artists actually started using the environment and landscape and its materiality as a medium is at some point during the 60s and the 70s. And a very important moment is this film created, actually was shown, I think, in German television. It was for television, which was called Land Art. It was by Gary Schum, and it documented some very, very important artists like Richard Long, James Oppenheim, Smithson, Walter Di Maria, and others. And it showed how these people work, and it introduced this form of art to the public. Now, just to think for a moment about some very important characteristics of these artistic interventions. Now, this documentary talked about a form of art, and the name of it, land art, was actually given as a result of this documentary. It was the short of landscape art, so art that was used in the landscape, and it was actually presented in the landscape. But of course, when art is being made in the landscape, that means that it cannot be shown in a gallery. Or if it is shown in a gallery, then there are some form of media, some kinds of media that are being used to document the activity or the intervention that happened in the landscape, and to present it and represent it in the gallery. But in general, the intention of this artist was to expand the boundaries of traditional art, to use the earth, to use the materials of nature as media, and to use the environment as the place where the work is, where the work actually lies. Um, so materials as soil, rocks, plants, water were media. And of course, if you do this, then you're not actually, it's very difficult to actually present your work in a gallery. So these works were actually inaccessible. So what could be shown was photographs or sketches or documentations or films or videos. Um, in general, this era was the era where two very important things occurred. One was a reaction to the commercialization of artistic production, of artistic practice. So in this form of artistic expression, there lies a criticism for the business of art. Um, uh, Galleries and museums were thought to be very involved in the economic interests and needs. And so instead, artists thought that they should present their art somewhere else in the environment, and that's where it belonged. And of course, it was the ecological movement of that time that was very important for many of these artists and inspiring for many of these artists. And a kind of a reaction to the fascination with urban life. So, and a desire to embrace all things rural for this particular time. And as I said, so because it was difficult to reach the landscapes, media like photography, video, television were used for capturing the intervention, the site, and presenting the art in a traditional artistic context. So the term land art was mainly used in Europe. The term earthworks was used in the US, and there was one characteristic phrase by Donald Judd, and Donald Judd is a minimalist, and this artistic form of expression was very much related to minimalism in the way they use their media and in their formal um, um, work. And he in order to express the need for expanding sculpture, expanding artistic expression from what it used to be before the 60s, that he called for an art with a specificity and power of actual materials, actual color, actual space. Um, and what's also very important, and that these works were not very easily transportable. You couldn't carry, a big pile of stones or something to the gallery, and they were also temporary, not permanent. But so are most installations, for that matter, anyway. So. I'll show you very quickly some examples of works. Before I do that, another very important moment in the history of land art is the exhibition Earthworks, which occurred at the end of the 60s in Bone Gallery in New York. And then some of the most important artists of this genre are in this exhibition. But so you see here the space of a gallery. So here we have works which bring the landscape in the gallery, some of them. Or you have works which are placed in the landscape, and somehow a documentation of them is captured and then presented in the gallery. Very important artists of that time: Dennis Oppenheim, Robert Morris, Walter Di Maria, and Carl Andre, Michael Heiser, and so they used earth, they used stones, they used other matters to create sculptural form that was presented in the landscape or somehow represented in the gallery. But also what's very important, the work of Dennis Oppenheim. He actually brought these materials in the gallery and formulated and framed somehow with some structures a new work of art. So the desire to somehow expand what sculpture meant until then is a very important underlying principle here. Another important underlying principle is site specificity. So artists create these works on the site. they may alter the structure, the surface, in general, the materiality of the landscape, of the site, of the environment. And somehow, with their intervention, they do inscribe themselves in the memory of the environment. So, and as Richard Serra said, to remove the work would be to destroy the work. So the work, many of these works, are only to be seen in the environment. Otherwise, if they're removed, they cannot be placed somewhere else. They're site specific. Um, so in a way, some new topographies of art were created, topographies in nature, in the landscape, and these are to be seen as outside the scope of a museum, of this, what we call the white cube context. And there are many relevant concepts there, but I couldn't go into detail into this, like Donald Judd referred to specific objects. Carl Dre discussed sculpture not as form or not as structure, but sculpture as place. So space, through the intervention, becomes place and is embedded with meaning as such through the artistic intervention. Um, uh, I would need like 1 or 2 hours to show you properly images, very important images of works of that genre. But I will very quickly show you some of them, and then I'll take you quickly into the next step. So Spiral Jetty is one of the more famous land artworks by Robert Smithson. Time Landscape is one of the oldest one. It is an urban forest in New York City, and creating this juxtaposition between a wild forest and the heavily urbanized environment of Manhattan. Adi Goldsworthy is a very important British artist who's been working with materials he finds in the rural landscape. James Turrell is one of the most important artists. Here is one of his famous works, which is actually a crater that has been somehow manipulated. And it's a work in progress that started in 1979, and I'm not sure if it was ever finished, to put it more accurately. Or Richard Long and his a sculpture made of 170 pieces of slate, I believe, somehow composed in different versions. Carl Andre, this is one of his interventions, one of his old works in a sort of urban landscape, and and of course there are differences of scale, and you probably all are aware of the work of Christo and Jean-Claude, the huge scale of their interventions in landscape, and very quickly. I don't know if I have time though, Alexandre. If I start now, maybe I will take some of your time. So, would you want to present your work? I will say, I will speak a
Thank
couple of
you. Yeah.
minutes as a bridge, and I would like you to present your work. And if we have time, I will present this. Otherwise, I'll present it in one of the other sessions. Um, what I want to say is, okay, we showed you some examples of land art and ecological art. There's many names for it, earthworks or whatever. Um, what we feel is that the use of digital media that we are often using in our departments, in our schools, to create artworks, different kinds of media, we feel it is important to attempt to create artworks that could either capture nature in some form or capture information that is that lies in nature and is not easily perceived by us, and we can do that with sensing technologies, and actually view things that are not easily viewed by us without the help of machines, and then somehow embed them back again in nature. And I think what the reason for me to present these old artworks and the attitudes of these people and their approaches, and I'm pretty sure you might want to sort of dig into your internet resources now and have a look at the works of all these people, and is that the respect for the environment, the attitude of trying to create an intervention that does not significantly alter, but is kind of more modestly composed with the environment. Sort of principles like that are things that we can learn from and see again how we can use our advanced or whatever ubiquitous media to go back to nature with respect and position some modest little artworks in nature that are not necessarily big scale. They can be very small scale, they can be temporary, and they can somehow create a modest intervention that doesn't need scale to be meaningful. So, just some brief ideas that I wanted to mention, and to maybe discuss all this later on as we proceed with the workshops and see how we may use our media to work with nature, in nature, with this media. So I'll stop now, Alex, and give you the microphone, and please do present your work, which I think is related to this take on art for the environment, or whatever you will tell us. Thank you.
I want to show you some of my work which relates to the topic. I'm Alexandros. I work with Dimitris. I can see our students there. I'm assistant professor in interactive arts at the Department of Digital Arts and Cinema in the National Kapodistrian University of Athens. That's how it, I guess, looks like. So I teach there, I do my research there, but I also run a studio which is called One Continuous Lab with a colleague, but most of the work recently is done by me. So that's like a brief introduction to give you my perspective and my point of view. So one image that I love Juan Miro, a painter. Um, this is a painting made in the 60s, so I'm very keen on in the arts, every type of art, I would say. My focus is more on sound and music, but my practice includes basically more or less everything in the digital and a little bit in the physical realm. But I'm also very excited about equations and mathematics and science and physics and algorithms and informatics and all this universe. These are the Maxwell equations, which once upon a time when I studied physics, I knew how to solve them. Now I have no clue how to solve those beautiful equations. But they're very important because they describe light. And light, in a way, led the modern science, and light because all the research around quantum mechanics and field theories was related to the lights. And also it's about the arts. Even so, I'm more in the sound. I consider like as big part of my practice. Curious Mind, this is in the Art Science Museum in Singapore. I like this quote by Leonardo: study the science of art, study the art of science, develop your senses, especially learn how to see. And the most important for me is the last phrase: realize that everything connects to everything else. So I think my work as a researcher and as a artist is to build bridges between ideas and disciplines. And as I said before, I like both media. I like the digital medium, the virtual in a way, but also I like atoms, bits, and atoms, as you can see here, material. So exploring both, exploring atoms and exploring bits in the forms of signals often. I like signal processing. It's a big part of my education also, which is how we play with crunch numbers, play with numbers to generate images, sounds, and everything that can be transduced in any form of energy through a computer in a way. Transdisciplinary by heart. This is a book that I read a couple of years ago. Hard to understand, but it focuses on this idea of transdisciplinarity, where your focus is spread among disciplines and you're not defined by a subject or topic. And that's how I like to see the world nowadays. So making connections. So I'm going to show you the pieces. So the first piece that I think is quite relevant, it's called Temno. It was developed in a workshops very similar to the workshop that we're gonna do in Evia. I didn't participate in the previous workshop, so I have no idea what happened there, but I know what happened in Slovenia back then in 2019, and I would like to share it with you. No, wrong button. So I will read. You can read also. Temno is a site-specific, so I'm very keen in site-specific works. Interactive installation conceived and developed for a forest in Soca Valley in Slovenia, an amazing forest, by the way. Temno means dark in Slovenian, but also means intersect in Greek. Both terms are related to the nature of the piece. A series of speakers and light sensors are mounted on the trees and create a light-responsive music environment or a soundscape. The installation can be experienced in the daytime due to the continuous changes of the light conditions, sun movement, clouds, leaves movement, etc. But even better and more dramatically, in the nighttime, where the visitors can interact with the outdoor space with torches. It was developed in pure data embedded in the Bella platform. I want to share some simple technical details. The sounds of the installation, by the way, were designed, performed, and recorded with a small synthesizer created by Dr. John Richards. These are details now, but it's funny because I met from the Montfort University. I met this artist and professor there, and in this, I will show you pictures. I'm not going to talk more. Okay, I'll skip the slide because it's irrelevant. This is how it looked like. I'm very terrible in documenting my work. Now I know how important it is, and I force students to document their work very, very as an important part of the process of making something. This is a small video showing more or less how it works. So light triggers the sound. By the way, I had music here. I don't know why it didn't work. Well, let me see. There you are. So that was developed in, let's watch the time. Okay, a thing called PIF camp, which is like a summer camp in Slovenia, where people gather there for a week in a very DIY or do it with others approach, with workshops, creating artworks, doing some talks, having fun in nature, and building a community, a beautiful community. These are the pictures when I was there in 2019. You can see the tent, that's where we were working, and where we were swimming. Check the colors of the water. I mean, the waters are incredible. The Probably the best waters I've ever, and the coldest I've ever seen. And these are some beautiful synthesizers that I was improvising during the day, but I ended up playing with a very, very small synthesizer in the size of microcontroller developed by the professor from the Montfort, which is funny. It's like contradictory, but I really appreciated the glitchy sounds and reminded me the sound of insects or of nature more. So, and I wanted to place it on the trees to create this poetic environment. That's me playing. I couldn't stop playing, but with all those synths. And this is the big community. So it's like a big community, everybody helping each other, everybody sharing ideas with each other. I gave a workshop, so the piece was essentially co-created, the code, and we managed to develop three only objects that were mounted on the trees. These are speakers together with Bella boards and the sensors. So Bella is a platform that probably, it's not sure, we may use with Dimitri's in the summertime, in a month time when you will arrive in Greece, because it's a small computer designed for high fidelity audio and runs easily handled programming language for music and other type of programming languages. So that's what was used. And of course, I love this picture. I see the world of electronic as a universe of elements that somehow, when you make them talk together, they create something beautiful. So I don't know, I find this picture very poetic. So together with code, you create your own interactive digital universe. The second piece I wanted to create, it's much more probably um, the first one was site specific in the sense that I was very inspired by the forest. I was always inspired by the light in forests and how immersive is the experience in the forest. The second one was a similar residency, 2 weeks residency in Tsepelovo in Greece. Tsepelovo is an amazing village in the northern part of Greece, up on the mountains. And I wanted to play with the local materials and create a simplistic installation. Uh, so the work below Temno was mainly developed by me, but I ran a workshop to co-create the code. This project was a little bit more in collaboration. So I had the main concept and I developed the piece. Aris Bezes created the visuals and Jérôme Villeneuve did some photography. So I don't have audio from that piece, but the idea is that we collected this village is famous for how they create structures, bridges, houses with stone. And also, it was impressive that time of the year there were trunks of trees everywhere as piles outside the village. So I collected both and create two kinds of corridors in the form of installation. Let me see if this is more visible. You can see the sea corridors. Corridors. I mean, the two lanes. I don't know how to call them. Sorry for my English now. And the idea was a little bit simple. People were walking on them, and I had a high fidelity microphone, and I was trying to capture all the micro details of sounds from wood and all the micro details um, sounds from the stones and amplify them, extremely amplification. They were wearing headphones, and I want them to see how the body relates to walking. So the body was also an important aspect of this work. And also because I wanted to connect with the local community. So this is a close up. We took photographs from the villagers, and when the sounds were generated in the gallery, in the hall in the main village, we did projection mapping, and we were presenting photographs of the local people. I'm not sure where the photographs. Where are the photographs? Okay, this is the description. Yeah, there you are. So they're playing as a video, but imagine that these 4 images were projection mapped on key buildings in the village. All right, that's the second piece. The fourth piece, I'm not sure how much time I have. I have like 7 minutes. Again, in a way, is a site-specific installation. It was developed in Manchester, but was conceived for Corfu. It's called In X and Y. It was clearly a collaboration. Again, the concept was given by me, but we worked together with Odysseas Clisuras. He's part of One Continuous Lab, and Ignacio Pequino, a Spanish developer who developed, I think, a geolocation software called Echoes. I'm not sure. Sonic Maps, sorry. Echoes is from a different researcher from the same university. So I'm going to play you a little bit of the piece. Come on. Yep. Okay, I will have to stop here. You experience the piece as a linear progression of sections, but in reality, it was placed spatially, and you were exploring the piece by moving around in space. And let's say the unique point of the piece was it has strong rhythmical elements, and the visitors were experiencing the piece with their phones and with speakers. The phone also was projecting lights, like you will see in the next picture, and all the sound coming from the various sources, from people working around, was in sync. So that was a challenge. It's the first software in geolocation that was co-developed with Ignacio in that way, because I wanted to have moving sources exploring the space and filling the space with satellite and sound. It's based on a principle of Terry Riley piece called In C. I'm not gonna give much detail. I try to represent this piece spatially with light also. This is a studio that was created. These are the experiments. It's some Manchester University. This is the location in Corfu. You can see the castle there. And actually, this is the video where you can see people walking around with their headphones. Unfortunately, it is very hard to document those pieces because it's more about the experience, the subtleties of light changing, of flashing lights, and all these qualities. It's impossible to like capture in the camera. And in general, most of my pieces are hard to document. It's more about the process and the experience than the final outcome or object. And the last piece was ended. I'll show you the picture. I shared with you my love for walking in the woods, in the forest, and all these qualities of sound and sun lighting changing with the leaves. This piece is for another passion I have of floating on the snow. I'm a snowboarder and I wanted to develop something for the snow for the outdoors. It's a collaborative piece again with three partners: myself, Olivia Kotzify, an architect, and Asho Sank, a snow park design company in France, the best snow park design company actually in France. And the aim was to create a playful and even provocative experience to the snowboarders and to the spectators by mixing and blending music, sound design, architecture, and freestyle snowboarding. Well, what's important, what was important and still important for me is how difficult it is to develop installations outdoors, because you have the cold here, you have the snow, you have snowboarders not actually willing to respect your system, doing their own thing, trying to orchestrate all these unpredictable elements. Was proved to be a hardcore task in a way. So that's my friend Antoine. We went to the snow park up in the night to try to capture him. We dressed him with lights because we wanted to use computer vision techniques and to get the lights. We used two lights because we wanted to track his both feet when he rotates. This is the snow park in Maribel in Trois-Vallées, the biggest ski resort in the world. This is the team, an amazing team. We work together outdoors, and the idea is how from snow we can shape space, and we can shape movement from space, and we can shape sound from movement. So it's this chain of ideas. This is the snow park where we worked, a beautiful place. The teams, we did some research on what they can do. We tried different technologies. We brought sensors in the park, many meters of cables, webcams, software, laptop computers, desktop computers, everything was there. It was an incredibly difficult task. Sketches of the ideas, how we imagine the interaction and how we imagine the whole experience over there. These are the we wrote papers actually about this. Anyway, I'm not going to give you detail because we're running out of time. But it taught me a very important lesson that it's better to test all of your ideas indoors when you have the facilities easily accessible, and when you're ready, go outdoors. On the other hand, it's very beautiful to be inspired by nature and work outside on a table with all these electronic devices. So I'm not sure how to navigate those both spaces. It's like you need to surf in a way as you surf in snowboarding. This idea was an experiment. It was hard to finalize the project, and unfortunately, that was made in 2011. And unfortunately, we didn't actually realize we ended up with a prototype and a very crap video, as you will see here. I need to say this is not post-edited. Everything is generated in real time, and it's more like a mixing of tunes and tracks that they provided us, because the idea is that we use their music, which is triggered and manipulated by their moves in order to create this experience. And these are the tests we did in the park. That's me trying to find out what's happening.
C'est bon. C'est génial. Un, deux, trois. Un, deux, trois. 3, 2, 1. Voilà, comme ça, c'est bien. 1.
Anyway, I know that I'm running out of time, so it was an extremely useful experience. I don't think I have much more to say. Looking forward to see you and share my experience, work with your ideas, and build something together outside in nature. Evia is a beautiful island. The team is a beautiful team we have here in Greece. And that's all for me. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much.